Today on Locked On Rockies, Tyler Kinley heads to Atlanta, and I don't know if you all felt this way, but that series felt a whole lot like the last series the Rockies just played.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 31st day of July in the year 2025, also known as the trade deadline. Right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, we'll be reacting here to everything that happens with the Rockies. So far, only two deals, at least as of recording this. We'll make sure that we check in and see if anything breaks during our short recording possibilities here, as relievers are flying around Major League Baseball. And now the Rockies have made one of those moves in sending Tyler Kinley to the Atlanta Braves and got a relief pitcher in return here. Let's see we'll get the details and all that and more. We'll also recap a frustrating game, a frustrating finale. There's the Rockies' bad habits and bad performances return here in a series that ends up being a whole lot similar to the Baltimore series. Maybe not in terms of the same big blowout, but another shutout loss where the Rockies offense is non-existent. Another game in which the Rockies in the middle there give up a bunch of runs. And it all comes off the heels of a fun and engaging first game in the series where the Rockies looked like they were putting themselves in a position to surprise some folks. So we'll dive into that and more, all coming up on today's episode. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use the promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. So, let's start with the Tyler Kinley news here. This is from the Associated Press. The Atlanta Braves acquired veteran reliever Tyler Kinley from the Colorado Rockies for minor league pitcher Austin Smith on Wednesday. Let's see here. The 26-year-old Smith is 0-1 with a 2.38 this season at Class A Rome in the Braves farm system. Pretty deep pick here. And honestly, there was a lot of people not even sure that the Rockies would be able to get much of anything, if even able to do a deal for Tyler Kinley. And it's kind of interesting that Tyler Kinley is the first bullpen piece for the Rockies to move on from here. When we were, especially when we were talking about how we were looking at it in yesterday's podcast, they're kind of talking about, hey, Kinley's second half so far has been a little bit more, been off to a bit of a better start than some of the other Rockies bullpen arms, and for them to kind of get a late pick swap here for again. Everything has to be a possibility. I mean, the Thomas Harding, I remember, if you remember earlier in the week, was saying that everybody is a possibility outside of Ezekiel Tovar, and that needs to continue to be the case here. We need to continue to see the Rockies move on from some of these arms, and a little bit hesitation, I think, for some of these guys with more team control, but it's kind of like, when you see games like this in the finale here, and as the Rockies now hit loss number 80 before August, I know it's a day before August, but that's still loss number 80 in the month of July. That there's no way to skirt around that, and any small little thing of finding a small little silver lining in there ain't helping. At this point, it has to be clear that this team is very far from that competing window, and it needs to be addressed like that. The Rockies only making two moves, and I'm not sitting here saying that I expect the Rockies to only make two moves. I certainly think if teams are as many teams are as in need of bullpen help as they are, and if the Rockies actually are keeping an open mind and willing to actually move on from some of these guys and not overvalue what they have and not think so high, again. You have to keep some of your guys. You have to believe in your scouting system, and you have to trust your gut sometimes too. But in this situation, it needs to be we need to see more. I mean, this needs to be, and it's a weird thing to call for. These are guys, Tyler Kinley's a prime example. This is a guy that just, spent 6 years for the Rockies organization. Harding was mentioning that Kyle Freeland was getting calls about and things like that. So, I mean, these are going to be tough moves for the Rockies in terms of guys that have been dedicated and guys that have, gone out and performed for the Rockies, but it needs to start really being big picture stuff. The season is so far lost. I mean, there really is no need to hang on hope that something about this season is going to turn around, that something about this season is going to feel good. This season is going to go down as the worst in Rockies history, and there's no way around it. And it still has a chance to going down as the worst season in baseball history. If it will be an even bigger disappointment. It will be an added on to a season full of disappointment if the trade deadline passes tomorrow and the Rockies have only made 2 deals. It will be. Plain and simple. That's a failure. That's a failure to execute on the front office. That's a failure. That's a failure to be willing to move on. That's a failure to actually rebuild and believe in the rebuild and be confident in the ability to rebuild. That's a failure. Plain and simple. And whatever way they would try to spin it, whatever little thing they want to hit us with, whatever little, company line that they're going to say out there, if they only end up dealing these 2 trades, which were good moves to make, freeing up some money, moving on from some of the contracts. I mean, when you're talking about one of the things that would be a plus side of moving Kyle Freeland is if you can get people to take the contract. Now, I don't think Kyle Freeland is going to be one of the top candidates for the Rockies to trade. I think the story matches too much of what they like in Kyle Freeland. I think they can market Kyle Freeland very well. I'm a sucker. I'm a Kyle Freeland guy. I mean, again, you look today, he gives up the 2-home run, the 2-run homer there, but he's also clearly under the weather, clearly struggling and going out there trying to pitch and perform for his team. Maybe put on one, kind of show off one last time if maybe there's a little more chatter in his ear and what he's heard from behind the scenes. But that one would kind of shock me a little bit. I truly think I would be pretty surprised to see the Rockies move on from Kyle Freeland, just because I think that guy, he screams the guy to be loyal to. He screams the guy to be the Rocky forever type of guy that the Rockies will want to keep around, as they've had in their system now. They've had Todd Helton, they've had Charlie Blackmon. Now, they can have Kyle Freeland here. But that's, as much as that's a feel-good story, that doesn't help the Rockies next year. It doesn't help the Rockies in the year after that. I mean, having Kyle Freeland pitch, and if you're able to add some guys and some of these young guys take steps forward and Kyle Freeland takes steps back and he's just the back end of the rotation guy and rides out his career, that could be one option. That could be fine. But if you sit here and think that only making 2 moves at the deadline is going to be enough to get this team even close to back on track, going into this season, I was hyping up of how much progress I thought the Rockies had made, how many steps forward that they were going to make. It's clear that I was wrong. It's clear that this team is still very far behind the 8 ball. It's clear that these guys are regressing in some areas, and the Rockies have not been able to help them adjust. The Rockies can't stop striking out. The Rockies can't stop helping. They can't help but look completely outmatched by off-speed pitches and fastballs with a little bit of movement. There is still so much development and work to be done on some of these guys for the Colorado Rockies, and that even includes your Hunter Goodmans and your Jordan Becks and your Ezekiel Tovars. They're far from perfect. There are still issues that they have. There are still issues that are core issues to this team. And just by doubling down and thinking that you have the better options, you have the better things for the future, I just don't know if that's going to lead the Rockies in the right place. And I was reading some coverage today where the Wednesday before the trade deadline especially starts to see where it starts to get, the asking price. You start kind of finding out, are they going to go down in the price at all? Are they going to change their mind at all? It's, will things move around? And the Rockies were just able to moved Kinley in a 1-for-1 swap for a 14-rounder. If you're willing to make that type of move, you should be open to a variety of different moves as well. Bring in arms into the system, see what you can get, see what happens. The more prospects you bring in as you move on from pieces that aren't going to help you in this rebuild and help you in the immediate future, you're going to strike on a couple of them. You're going to give your bullpen pieces more time to develop and to build around them. And you have some of these guys that will develop on track with some of these guys and be able to work yourself in a spot where a lot of these guys are seeing the field together. but it takes movement. The Rockies need to be aggressive here. They can't afford to sit back and just think like, come to us. You can't expect nothing but the best for these guys when you're pointing at a team that has 80 losses and is at the bottom of the barrel of every statistical category in baseball. You can't sit there and say that you have the crown jewels and the best options for these for players, for teams to go after. And it might sound here like I'm telling them to settle, and maybe in a way, I guess it kind of is, but it's also like a try something different. See what you can get and get creative, and see what you can develop, and see what you can turn some of these guys into. Again, getting McMahon for a couple of guys that are in the top 30 of Yankees of the top 30 of the Yankees system. That's a good deal. It's a small sample size, but who knows if this 14th round, if our guy there is going to be able to pull out and become a great a pitcher here to help with the Rockies here. Smith, but that's it. 0-1 with the 2.38 ERA in his appearances so far. That's pretty good. And it's just pretty good. It's again, as we talked about, it's taking these guys to the next level. And that's what's so frustrating about this series here is that it doesn't feel like the Rockies have helped these guys reach that next level. And that's across the board it's very obvious within the regression. Some guys are having a good season, but this series shows you just, again, it's another reminder of woof. They got a long ways to go. Let's break down the finale here and look at the final game before the trade deadline and keep chatting about the trade deadline and more coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes 5-Hour Energy and the 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized, especially if you're talking about getting one of those early tee times to avoid the summer heat, right? You're getting out there early. You're chasing that, maybe even chasing sunrise in some instances here. Well, enjoy that grape and ginger lime flavor of the 5-Hour Energy Transfusion, and you'll hit your best shots, or at least you'll feel like you're hitting your best shots. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGolf. That's promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Locked On Rockies here, back at it in segment number 2. Paul Holden here, breaking down all things Colorado Rockies, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. How are you feeling heading into the trade deadline? What are you hoping to see? Are you nervous? Are you excited? We'll see. Let's see here. Just Josh and Cam says, Sir Anthony Dominguez netted a top 10 prospect and he has 0 years of control. If they do not capitalize on trading guys like Halverson, Vodnik, or Bird, it is an abject failure. Nobody should survive. I don't know. I mean, I guess that is the question. Would that be a failure? And I saw a good point. Blake Street Banter there. I think that's where I saw it from. I can't remember if it might have been one of the hosts from Blake Street Banter. I can't remember exactly. Was saying that with Halverson, you got to expect some of these guys with a lot of the team control, the Halverson and the Vodnik issue here, and Vodnik again in the finale here wasn't sharp and has had some issues certainly, but like the raw ability, the raw speed, the raw talent of these guys, these young guys with the control, those guys need you need to get more for those if you are going to make those moves, which the door could be open for that. especially if you're thinking again, if you're 3 years from competing, if you're multiple years down the line from competing, these guys might not be the best assets anymore. These bullpens are weird. Bullpen pitchers are weird. Weird things happen with bullpen and relief arms. So my question will be, do you think that you're going to move on from this? Moving on now, will that help you? Because it's interesting that the trades right now, it's only been the two of them, right? But they've only been guys at like the high A level. So some experience, certainly, but still in the lower levels. And if you're hearing that, you're probably thinking a couple years off. So that's like 2-3 years. I mean, people can move up quickly, certainly, but I mean, you kind of expect that they start there. If they're at this point there, if they're at this point in the season and they're still there, they might get called up later in the season or the other stuff, start the next season in a higher thing. Could maybe debut, down the line next year if things go well. But if you're kind of sitting there and you are the Rockies and you're not going to add in free agency, you're kind of going to be in a situation here where next year could be similar. I mean, when you're looking at the possible roster for the Rockies and if they don't really actually aggressively add anybody here, you're sitting in another situation where the Rockies are going to be in a very similar situation to where they're at right now. So are Vodnik and Halverson going to be lined up to be making an impact here? Jake Bird seems like you must move him if the iron is still hot. You must take advantage of that. And again, it's just because of the way of where the Rockies are at and where they are in the being good and development pipeline here. So if I will say though, and I will mimic that, there has to be a lot more. There has to be more that comes. It can't just be the two moves. You don't just make these two moves and you sit there and say that this is enough. And I'm just scrolling. I'm making sure that we are scrolling here through the social medias while we're recording, just to make sure that nothing breaks while recording. We'll of course try to update as soon as possible as the trade deadline looms here. Coming up, what is this? I think it's like 6 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday here. So we'll be talking about anything else that might happen here. But yes, this needs to be a game. This needs to be, and I think it's kind of crazy to say that with the level of talent that the Rockies currently have and with the record and everything. It's like this needs to be a franchise-altering trade deadline. This needs to be one where you actually fully strip it down to the studs, make the moves, move on from some of these guys. Unfortunately, say goodbye to guys that helped you get to the playoffs. Try to shed some of these contracts. Try to get yourself in a situation where you just see what you got, see what happens, and go for whatever you can to scrape by through the rest of the year before trying to actually start building this team up. In its current state, it's not good enough to compete in the major league level. And more often than not, it's not. Even with the hot start and even with some of the, even with the better play of late, it's not up to snuff. So why overvalue it? Why double down? Why just buy into your own BS and buy into your own ignorance and continue your reputation of not being a good trade partner? We started it off. McMahon and Kinley getting moved, that's a good start. But there needs to be this team needs to needs to be this needs to be a deadline that we can look back on in a couple years down the line and say the Rockies are in this position, hopefully a successful position, because of what they did at this deadline, because of the moves they made here, because of the guys they got in the Ryan McMahon trade, the guys they got in the Jake Bird trade, the guys they got in the Herman Marquez trade, the Kyle Freeland trade. That is what this deadline needs to be for the Colorado Rockies. It needs to be, and again, there's no reason to actually get your hopes up and believe that it will happen, because they need to prove us wrong. Showing off the good signs, Rockies making two moves before the actual deadline. That's good. That's a good start. But the position you're in right now, this has to be a big trade deadline. Okay. A lot of trade deadline talk there, I know, but that's the exciting stuff, because that series was a bit of a bummer because the Rockies couldn't stop the offense in game 2, and then they had a total stinker on offense in game 3. Very similar, I feel like, in that in even just some weird similarities, I feel like, in that series here against in the Guardians and the Orioles. Let's talk about it. Locked On Rockies back with you here for segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Rockies dropped the series to the Guardians here in the finale, losing 5-0. Another shutout loss. This time it wasn't 18-0. And the big defeat came in game 2 again there. But Rockies plating 4 runs there, but the offense non-existent, and the Rockies couldn't keep up really with any of the Guardians pitching staff there, as they used multiple pitchers here, more pitchers than the Rockies, even with Kyle Freeland only going the 3 innings pitched in. Gives up another home run, but I mean, again, if you watch that game, you kind of saw that Freeland was clearly not even close to 100% there, and for it to only have been the 1 home run, it certainly could have been a lot worse there. But the 10 strikeouts here for the Guardians across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers used for them, and they only allowed 3 hits in that time as well. The Guardians pitchers were getting swings and misses. The Rockies were striking out a ton there. I believe the Rockies had like 7 or so strikeouts here in the opening frames in the opening half of the game, I believe here. Just really an abysmal day at the dish here, just like we saw again. Rockies shut out, held hitless, strike out a lot, and give up the loss. They had the big offensive day. Really feels like this was the kind of the same exact series, especially with the Rockies having the series openers be exciting, thrilling games where they come out and show some guts and show out a little bit. But then they just totally go cold. They just look outmatched. They look overpowered. I mean, what's so frustrating about games like the finale against the Guardians, it's just like, dude, they're just going to they're throwing you the same pitch over and over and over again, but they can't hit it. They can't touch it. They don't even hit it. And then it's on the other side. You got, bullpen guys that are putting the balls in way too easy of spots to hit. Victor Vodnik's throwing the ball right down the middle of the plate. The good news here, Mejia had one of his best probably his best appearance of his season here so far. Going out there and having 2 innings strong work, 3 innings actually. I apologize. No hits, 4 strikeouts there, keeping it in groove. And at that point, it's only a 3-0 game there. The Rockies, if they were able to get anything going on offense, would have been able to go out there. That game's not out of line. That's not in a situation in which you find yourself not in a position to be able to try to fight back and get back into this one, especially with how the opening game in this series worked, where the Rockies were able to bounce back in there. But just the Rockies offense was exposed once again. They just had their number. Weak contact, strikeouts, everything. Just a thorough domination across the board here by the Guardians. And especially when you're looking at it, the Rockies were successful at getting Ramirez in the first game, but then he comes out and he just starts doing what he does there. And nice to see the Rockies get some strikeouts as well. Ended up with 6 strikeouts, including Vodnik and it was Vodnik and Mejia doing all of the work on those strikeouts, as Kyle and Jaden Hill were unable to get any strikeouts. And Jaden Hill, walking batters, that leads to an early run. It just was just sloppy. I mean, I guess not sloppy in the sense of like throwing the ball around there, but it was just a maybe sloppy is not the right word, but it was just a was hype check. No, reality check. Maybe reminder. It was a reminder. It was a reminder that the Rockies are a 79 win or loss team, now an 80 loss team before August. It's a reminder that these guys have issues when it comes to their approach on offense. Either too aggressive, they can't see the pitches, they can't keep up with fastballs, they can't hit sliders, they can't hit off-speed stuff, they can't hit this, they can't hit that. And it was on full display. The Guardians, a team that's known to pitch, Guardians also having teams that take advantage of opportunities. They didn't necessarily thoroughly beat the Rockies down in this one, but they were effective. 8 hits, scoring 5 runs in that time, going 4 for 7 with runners in scoring position, getting a home run in that situation. It's not it wasn't, it's not necessarily overall the prettiest thing, but when you're dominating on that one side, when you're able to just get in such a groove and you can just strike out again. So like I said, the first half of the game, the Rockies striking out here. The Rockies had 8 strikeouts in the first 6 innings of the game. 8 strikeouts in the first 6 innings of the game. That's just it's again, how many times I said it? It's just unacceptable. That's just horrendous. Like these games where it's just time and time again of the Rockies just nonstop striking out on offense. It's insanity. It's just going up there and doing the same thing. It's just going up there and just waving away. It's going up there and chasing things. Let's take some pitches. Let's build some at bats. Let's get some ball vision stuff going on here. Again, I'm saying it all from my armchair here. I'm not up there trying to hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. I'm not over here hitting sliders that are starting at my eyes and finishing in the middle of the plate. But this is a pro baseball team. And the offensive standards and the offensive approach and the offensive preparation of the Colorado Rockies continues to be lackluster. And again, as we were talking about the trade deadline, as much as I agree that adding arms is the good thing, it ain't going to make me feel any better about the offense. It ain't going to make me feel any better about the Rockies' ability to develop hitters. It ain't going to make me feel any better about how are the Rockies going to get Brenton Doyle back to last year's version of Brenton Doyle? Can they get him here? How can they help Hunter Goodman from avoiding games where he just is non-existent and strikes out multiple times? Same with Jordan Beck. Hunter Goodman and Jordan Beck both striking out multiple times. Brenton Doyle striking out multiple times. These are guys that are supposed to be, and they are. But they are not immune from the flaws and the issues of the Rockies offense. They are not immune to bad stretches of baseball. They are not immune to these things. These games, it is just where you get a little bit more dejected. Where you just get guys, come on. I mean, again, Kyle Freeland gives up the home run, sure, but it was a close game. You just got to get something going. And the broadcast talking about not an overpowering fastball, talking about chasing things out of the zone, talking about not seeing the ball well. I mean, these are supposed to be professional hitters. And again, it just goes back to my whole issues where it's not just the players, but it's the preparation and it's the behind the scenes as well. These are the games that highlight that. Oh, throw him 4 sliders in a row. He's going to swing at the 5th one. We know he's going to swing at the 5th one. They can't hold off of it. They can't read the pitch. Boom, it happens. It's just added frustration where this team shows fight and this team goes back and forth. This team's able to bounce back throughout they rally in game 1 against the Guardians. They're having a series in which they're not striking out as much as they usually do. And then here it is in the finale, dominated. The lack of consistency is just so frustrating. And it's a young, growing pains, developed team, whatever stuff you got to throw out there. But that's what gets me fired up after losses like this, where it's just like, man, like what happened in between game 1 and now? What happened? What was different about the approach? Why can't you recreate that? But they haven't been able to recreate, and haven't been able to do that for most of the season. And at the end of the day, going 500 in these series to start the second half, it's better than being 35 games out of the playoff race, and it's a good smaller sample size. But it certainly doesn't make you feel any more confident, and it does raise question marks about the Rockies' ability to really build up this team for what's next. And those question marks are still going to be, big ones heading into the trade deadline here as it wraps up. And as the Rockies have an off day, and we'll see what the Rockies look like as they host the Pirates heading into the weekend series. We'll look at that series and more on the next episode of Locked On Rockies. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and Locked On MLB Game Night for coverage from every game every night. And, of course, we got you covered for Colorado sports coverage. Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.